Good morning. My name is Elliot McFadden, and welcome to the webinar for our Phase 1 Moving Greater Minnesota Forward program. Today, we are going to talk about the Phase 1 program of Moving Greater Minnesota Forward, a little bit of detail on our total program for shared mobility promotion in Greater Minnesota, as well as hear from our partner at ILT Academy that runs the Phase 1 program, hear from one of our previous participants, and then a little more detail on how you would apply if you're interested in being part of the program. Before I start, I want to give you a little bit of background on the Greater Minnesota Shared Mobility Program at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. As I mentioned, we're in the Office of Transit and Active Transportation. This started out as our state rideshare program in previous decades, so focused mainly on van pools and carpools. But in 2020, it expanded to encompass all sorts of innovative shared mobility technologies. And we have three areas of focus. The first is to build general understanding of shared mobility options. We have done this previously through a webinar series that we hosted during the pandemic to help people learn about new shared mobility options and hear from speakers around Minnesota and around the country. We've also funded several research projects, including looking at how you can publicly fund shared mobility and the creation of a public-private partnership guide for public sector practitioners who want to partner with private shared mobility providers. We also work to build networks of organizations to support shared mobility in Minnesota, and in the future are planning to host a conference focusing on shared mobility in Greater Minnesota. Our main work here is through the Minnesota Shared Mobility Collaborative, which started out as a Twin Cities focused organization, but with the support of our program has become a statewide organization, and encourage folks to check out the Minnesota Shared Mobility Collaborative to learn more about programming that's happening and to get more involved in shared mobility in Minnesota. And then finally, we are focusing on opportunities to promote pilots and new models of mobility in Greater Minnesota, and that's where the Moving Greater Minnesota Forward program comes into and what we'll be talking about today. So before we get into too much more detail, I want to make sure we're all on the same page when we say what is shared mobility. And it is a transportation service that is shared among users. So that can be shared at the same time or independently of one another. So examples of services that are shared at the same time: public transportation, ride hails and taxis, carpooling and van pooling. Services that might be shared independently would be car sharing or short-term car rental, bike sharing, scooter sharing, and delivery services. And just a little bit about me as the manager of the program. I am a 16-year veteran of the new mobility industry. My background includes launching the first car sharing service in the state of Texas and the founding CEO of the City Bike Share system in Austin, Texas. During that time, heading the Austin B-Cycle system, I was also a co-founder of the North American Bike Share Association, which is the trade association for what we call micromobility, which is bikes and scooters. And I currently also lead MnDOT's Regional Mobility as a Service pilot project, which is partners with 13 transit agencies and service providers in southern and western Minnesota with a multimodal trip planning, booking, and payment application. I've also been the lead on dozens of projects developing new products for the marketplace and using lean startup principles, which we'll talk a little bit about later on in the presentation. So background on Moving Greater Minnesota Forward. Our vision is to develop and implement the first innovative shared mobility incubator and ecosystem in the nation that focuses on the unique needs of rural, tribal, and small urban communities. There are many mobility labs and incubators throughout the country and throughout the world that focus on new mobility, but they almost solely focus on highly urbanized areas. And we know that those solutions don't necessarily scale down to smaller communities. So Minnesota is really taking a leadership role here in trying to develop right-sized solutions for smaller communities. Our program focuses on 3 phases. The first phase, idea development, which we'll go into more detail today. The second phase is doing real-world testing of ideas, and the third phase is scaling success. And we really aim to provide as much support as possible to projects that work through this process, bringing in an all-sector collaborative approach to provide technical and financial support and give projects a clear roadmap on how they can be successful. Our first phase, idea development, focuses on taking an idea that may be back of the napkin to fairly well developed, but really a project that wants to now move forward and become reality. And we run shared mobility lean startup incubator classes every 6 months. We have a cohort, which is what you're here today to hear about. Really, anybody who has a shared mobility idea that they'd like to test in Greater Minnesota is eligible to apply and develop this idea. And our goal is to help that project get to the point where they've developed the idea and can pursue phase 2 real world funding. In the phase 2 testing, we've established a program to fund pilots in Greater Minnesota to get real world information and to be able to allow projects to really test their idea. And we're looking in phase 2 for projects that have gone through phase 1 type of work with us or otherwise. And the funding model is looking to partner with Greater Minnesota communities to produce that pilot. So that could be with the local transit agency or local government. It could be with a local nonprofit or a small business, or it could be a startup that or other service provider that wants to partner with a local community. And we've been doing an annual call for $500,000 in funding for these projects. We just wrapped up our first phase 2 call at the end of April and expect to be announcing awards for our first phase 2 grants at the end of May. We will have another a solicitation next winter for another $500,000 in funding. So if you're interested in getting access to that, this is a great time to enroll in our next phase 1 cohort, which really preps you to be able to apply for that money. And then third is our phase 3 scaling success. So we want to create, again, that clear roadmap for projects to be able to grow beyond just the pilot, but go into long-term growth and where they're successful, become a permanent part of the community. And we see 3 avenues for this. We do look both in phase 1 and phase 2 at what commercialization opportunities there are with an idea. And if there's an opportunity there, we can connect you to work with the Launch Minnesota program, which is in the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development that matches startups and projects with early stage investment. We also see opportunities with existing services and new programming to match with direct procurement of services, especially when things are more focused on community services. And then finally, there may be opportunities to continue to access multiple funding options. And so maybe the establishment of a public-private partnership entity or framework is necessary and would assist with the development of that as well. So if we come back and we look at the Moving Greater Minnesota Forward program in total, we have these 3 steps for success, points where people can intersect and onboard into our programming and be able to take their idea from that early idea all the way to scaling a successful project. So now I'm going to talk in a little more detail about the phase one programming, which is now open with applications through June 5th. So the innovation framework that we use, I mentioned earlier, is called Lean Startup. This is a product development process that was developed in the tech industry over the last 20 years. And the reason that we use it is it really helps you increase your likelihood of success as you're developing your idea. So first of all, it's problem solution focused. This isn't about technology for technology's sake. This is always asking, is this a problem worth solving? Is there a problem or a need in the community that needs to be met with this service? It's also human-centered. So you involve customers and end users as much as possible, as early as possible, to provide you feedback on what you're developing so it's really well aligned with their needs. It's also resource light. You spend a lot of time at the beginning focusing on developing your idea, um, um, working with those customers before you build your final project. And this means that you don't spend a lot of money building something that nobody needs, and instead you develop what's called your minimum viable product, or MVP, which is what are the least amount of resources I can put in to give a good facsimile to my vision of what I'm trying to build, so I can get feedback before I put all of the resources in fully building out my project. It's also built on the scientific method. So you create hypotheses that you're trying to prove or disprove with your project, and you use metrics to measure that and make sure you are either confirming or not your hypothesis. And then you only scale and build up when your idea meets the hypothesized results for success. So in the meantime, you continue to refine your project. You continue to come back and talk with your customers and end users to improve it. And if you get to a roadblock, a point where you really can't move forward with the idea you have, you look to pivot to another concept to continue to move forward. So it creates this very virtuous cycle of building your idea, getting that out in front of people to measure how they interact with it, learning from that, and then refining. And the results are, in the long term, you save time and money on your project. You reduce the risk. You're greatly enhancing this likelihood of success. And we make a better product, something that's better aligned with what the need in the community is. So the way we approach phase one is we've partnered with ILT Academy, which is based out of St. Cloud, and they have been doing lean startup courses and classes for many years with Launch Minnesota and some other organizations around the state and around the country. We are partnering with them on our Moving Greater Minnesota Forward Phase 1 cohorts. They produce a 10-week online course and then coaching that is built on lean startup principles. You meet weekly as an online course and collaboration with other folks that are in the cohort to develop your idea, with a presentation at the end to a review group that we provide that gives you feedback to continue to improve your idea. We also provide 6 months of additional post-course coaching from ILT Academy. And then we do have available for up to 6 projects per cohort, a $4,000 stipend to offset some of your costs for participating in the project. And I'll talk about how you apply for that here at the end of the webinar. But our goal here, as I said, is to have your idea ready to pursue funding for the real world, to get your idea out into the public and to test out the idea to get to phase 2. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick from ILT, and then after him, we will hear from Tammy, who was a alumni of one of our previous Phase 1 cohorts. So Nick, I can turn it back to you. Did you have any screen you wanted to present, or do you want to just chat? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I think I'm going to need to give you some screen sharing authorization. So give me just a moment.
Okay, cool.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, cool. Let me make sure I click all the beeps and boops in the right order. Okay, there we go. You can see it?
I can.
Excellent. Hey guys, my name is Nick Tietz. I'm the CEO and founder of ILT Academy. ILT simply stands for I Like That. And we are focused on empowering underestimated entrepreneurs in underserved geographies, so rural, urban, and informal settlements. We are really excited to be partnered with MnDOT with this lean startup shared mobility program. And, you know, as Elliot mentioned, the lean startup methodology is for anybody. It's not just for entrepreneurs. Now, you're going to hear me talk about entrepreneurs because I think that entrepreneurs have some critical skill sets that everybody needs to support their community. And at the end of the day, a lot of this is about product development and then implementation. And how do you bring an idea to the market? And so we are really focused on helping people that haven't done this a lot, teach them these critical skills. And while they're doing it, our mission is simple, right? It's to find all of you and then meet you where you're at. Some of you have done an entrepreneurial venture before. It might have been when you were younger. It might have been last year. You might be running a program. You're all in different spots, but our program is designed to meet you where you're at and then help you bring this idea to the market called commercialization, right? At the same time, connect you to a community and culture of other entrepreneurs, right? Where are the other zebras? Where are the other people that are trying to do crazy, innovative things that a lot of people said that's not possible? And we want to show you how to do that while connecting you to all available execution and commercialization resources, because there's a lot of great resources out there for you. Now, we haven't just done this a little bit. We've run over 30 cohorts in the last 3 years with innovators and entrepreneurs like you all over the state of Minnesota and North Dakota. And those founders, those program managers, there's been some commissioners in there that we've been meeting, right? They've raised over $7 million to push their idea forward. And what I'm highlighting here is that it's not even about the money raised. It's about all the other things that they are accomplishing to move that idea forward. Because our vision is way bigger than training and education. We want to see communities full of problem solvers, innovators, and critical thinkers working to solve the challenges in their community. Silicon Valley is not going to solve the challenges in the shared mobility space for rural America. And that's why we're really excited to be bringing this skill set, teaching this skill set to people like you. So as Elliot mentioned, our program focus is on something we call lean startup innovation. And so most of the students that come through the program and many that we've met in the other shared mobility cohorts, you all have day jobs. We call them fully employed students, right? Fully employed founders. Your goal in our program is to work on your business while you're working in your business, right? So you might have a day job just like everybody, but we need to be able to take a step back, think about what we're doing critically, push and pull, create some hypotheses, as Elliot was mentioning, and then figure out, does anybody want what we have? And are we delivering this in a way that the market will adopt this new product or service, or behavior changes, as I like to call it? We teach lean because this is all about finding a problem, validating that that problem exists and that people want it solved, and then building the right product that will solve that problem. It's so easy to overbuild a product. And then when it hits the market, you find out that we spent too much on this, or we didn't build exactly what they needed. There's a way to solve that. And so that's why using a lean methodology helps shorten the cycle to do it. So You may, as I talk about the program here, you may go like, oh man, but it's 10 weeks long. I promise you, 10 weeks will go by at warp speed as you're coming through this program. Now, as you're working through this, there is a journey, right, to do this. And, we talk about it as the entrepreneur's journey because as innovators and entrepreneurs, you don't wake up, have an idea, and then magically like 100,000 people are using it, or 1,000 people are using it, or even 500 people in a community are using it. There's a process to bring it to the market, and there's a lot of other resources that are available to you. Once you really clarify the vision and mission and product goals and outcomes, and we want to teach you how to do it so you can leverage even more assets that are just waiting for you. So the way our program works is it's a multi-week program of 10 consecutive sessions that will help you learn how to validate and present your shared mobility idea, get connected with resources along the way, along with getting feedback and to showcase your entrepreneurial talent. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, Nick, I'm not an entrepreneur. That is okay, right? It's the skill set. I can't see you because you all have your cameras off, right? That's okay. But if you could raise your hand, how many of you are a baker, right? Have you baked anything in your oven? Like, you should learn how to bake. You should learn these other skill sets if you're going to be developing products and services and bringing them to the market. Now, our program is during the day. It's 11 to 3 p.m. It's all virtual. All you got to do is flip on your laptop and come enjoy this in our virtual space. We have office hours every week. We actually have office hours twice a week now. So if you have questions outside of class, you can come and get help from our expert team of lean startup trainers that will help you push and pull on your idea. No one's idea is perfect, right? And so we got to push and pull on it. And while you come through the program, we're going to get you connected to other organizations and like-minded critical thinkers that are working on different ideas. Some are in the mobility space. If you come to a office hours or come to any of the other events, you're going to meet people that are doing innovative ideas in every sector. So that's what we mean by connecting you to a really great community across greater Minnesota. Now, a lot of people, Tammy included, and she came through, probably like, well, what the heck is this experience like, right? She's going to talk about it in a minute. This is a virtual experience. This is not Zoom. This is not Microsoft Teams. This is this amazing experience we've crafted. You will need to use your computer. Mobile phones and tablets do not work, but we are going to get you connected. Every couple weeks, we are going to put you in front of other people to get feedback so you can share parts of your idea. The 3 acts of our program, the first act is all focused on what is startup innovation and how do we think about our idea differently, the customers we serve and the problems we're trying to solve. And then we need to craft a quick, crisp 30-second pitch. And then we're going to put you in front of other people and you got to share it and you're going to get feedback and you will find out if you are being clear or not. Because I promise you, myself included, I've given pitches and then people stare at me like I'm an alien, like, what did you just say? That doesn't make any sense, right? And so we got to get that out. We got to practice the skill set. Then we're going to focus on putting it into a one-page business plan using the Lean Canvas model. If anybody's ever used the Lean Canvas, I promise you, you've never been shown how to present this in under 10 minutes in a way that helps other people understand your whole business model. And then that's all going to culminate in putting together what we call the final founder showcase, where you need to craft a 5-minute business pitch on what is this idea, how will you bring it to the market, who's your mission, what's your vision, what's your 90-day roadmap, and what do you need to be successful. Again, we do it all virtually. This is our virtual environment. We did start out in person, and then our business opened the week before the pandemic, and so we had to figure out this whole digital world. You can see on the left, we've got this really cool space. You get to walk around, throw funfetti. It's a ton of fun, and we do all this collaborative and work online. Again, we do these 30-second pitches. We get you connected with great resources from all over the state of Minnesota. If you have tech involved, we've got connections with Prime Digital Academy. They build free prototypes for innovators and entrepreneurs that have full stack ideas. Ask me later what full stack is. But if you have a technology involved in your idea, we've got some resources that might be willing to get your first prototype built and designed for free. And then our virtual founder showcases, you get a virtual booth. This was one of our partners down in Red Wing. And you have a booth. We invite people from the shared mobility space and all other reaches of Minnesota, and they come and they talk to you and they want to learn about your idea. So it's a really, really cool environment. We've been supporting entrepreneurs from all over the state of Minnesota, high tech, low tech, no tech, for-profit, nonprofit, PhDs, serial entrepreneurs, college students, high school students, furniture makers, and yes, shared mobility innovators and entrepreneurs. So just wanted to say thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Elliot.
Thanks, Nick. Let's go ahead. We will transition now to have Tammy Hagan, who is from Headwaters Regional Development Commission and was a participant in our winter cohort that wrapped up in March of this year. And wanted to have Tammy share a little bit about her experience with you today. So take it away, Tammy.
Thanks, Elliot and Nick. Well, first of all, my name's Tammy Hagan, like Elliot said, and I was in the last cohort, 29, with Nick and his team at ILT. And I just want to say right now, when Nick was showing his slide presentation, don't let that freak you out, because they will work you, they will help you through every single bit of that. At first, it feels a little daunting, but pretty soon it becomes like
second nature.
Second nature. Thank you. It actually starts out with something like this. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've kept all my drawings, and I thought, how silly is this? But really, in the long run, it was that first drawing that I did that really sprung me forward into the ILT experience. What I can say is that ILT will give, it lets you do a napkin idea, something that's been rolling around in your head. And through the 10-week process, it will actually step by step let you create this idea into something that is doable. Part of what ILT does is has you out in the community working with the customers that you think that you will be serving with your project. Mine was a transit project for low-income housing development. And through the 10 weeks, I don't know how many times I changed my focus after talking to individuals. What I thought was a doable project actually was something that I had no data on. I had no idea if it would even work. And so through the process, it really gives you that project, and mine was grant ready. I did 2 grant applications at the end of ILT, and it was like cut and paste into the applications. So really, it's a great experience. The team at ILT has been top notch to work with. They really see you as an individual, that everybody is different, and really created an atmosphere and environment for your individuality. And I still am in touch with some of the other cohort individuals from the cohort I was in. They are like a wealth of feedback and connections that I will have for a lifetime. So thank you, Elliot, for the opportunity, and Nick for your team, because it is an outstanding program that is just spurring this project ahead for myself and our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, this is really, I'll talk about it in a second, but really a diverse group of, we have lots of different folks from regional development commissions to local government to nonprofits to small businesses to startup entrepreneurs. And but they're all focused on trying to solve a mobility problem in their community. And as Tammy mentioned, the network, I do debriefings with everybody at the end of the program, as well as try to check in and see how we can continue to support projects. And almost everyone talks about that network and being able to learn from each other as a big part of this as well. I will say that we do have an opportunity coming up on the 22nd. If you are interested in, what is this really like? Nick will be hosting a 2-hour workshop, and I don't know, Tammy, if that drawing came from that workshop, but I know you do have an opportunity to doodle a little bit on your idea and share your doodle during that. But we do have an opportunity coming up, and I'll talk about that as well. So if you're interested in really getting a little bit of a hands-on understanding of what the programming is like, you have an opportunity there as well. So now I'm going to talk about the application process, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So if you have some questions for Nick or Tammy, we can take questions then. So applications are open now through June 5th. What projects are eligible? So if you have an idea for a brand new mobility service, something that's never been done before, we'd love to hear about that. But maybe you have an idea for something that's been tried elsewhere, but it's never been tried in your community. So you want to try something like that out. We'd love to hear projects like that. Maybe you have an existing technology or service within your community, but you'd like to test out new technologies or new business models, or maybe expand into serving new parts of the community. This is a great opportunity to do that. And as I mentioned, expanding to new demographics, new communities, new ways of meeting demand. These are all the kinds of projects that we'd love to hear and see apply to the program. If you're curious, we've had 2 cohorts. We had one in the fall. We had 8 projects go through that, and then one in the winter that Tammy just was part of that had 10 projects. You can visit the shared mobility section of the MnDOT website and click on selected projects, and you'll see a summary of the what each project was and what organization applied, so you can get an idea of just sort of the really the depth and breadth of the projects that we've had go through the program. Who can apply? So essentially, for almost anybody who has an idea for Greater Minnesota. Municipalities and transit agencies, community groups, small businesses, startups, or individuals may apply. And we've had almost all of those apply in some way through the cohorts. You can apply as a team. So one of the things I know, there is this time commitment each week. We have had duos as part of previous groups. So I think the key thing here is you want to have committed to have folks that are attending each week that are communicating with each other. So if somebody can't make it, they're communicating, the other person or the other members of the team are. I kind of leave it up to Nick kind of on the limits of that, how big of a team, but definitely 2 or 3 people is fine. So as you're applying, you can indicate if you're wanting to do that as a group. We do need a connection to Minnesota. So if you're applying as a team, at least one organization needs to be based in Minnesota or have an office in Minnesota or somehow be connected to a community in Minnesota. So if you have no connection to the state and you're just kind of interested in doing business here, we can talk and we can help try to connect you with a community that might be interested in working with you, but you do need a Minnesota connection. So once you apply, how do we decide who makes it into the program? So we have room for up to 12 projects per cohort. We'll be looking at the quality of the proposal. So what have you done so far? What's your idea? What have you thought about? What is the level of work and resources you've already committed? Have you done anything to date to develop this idea? We also look at geographic balance. So we want to make sure that we're getting representation of projects throughout greater Minnesota. So if we've got lots of folks from one part of the state and not very many from another part, we'll balance and try to make sure we're getting a good mix of folks throughout the state. And then alignment with our MnDOT priorities. So you can apply, really with any sort of shared mobility idea that you'd like, but we'll be especially interested in promoting and accepting projects that fall under one of our 5 priorities, which is the first or last mile connection to public transit, or a supplemental service to transit. So providing a service that supplements transit where transit currently doesn't provide service. Services that focus on historically underserved communities, not currently served or maybe underserved currently by public transit. Improved efficiencies or business models for existing shared mobility services. Winterization models for shared mobility. We know that there are lots of models, especially in more active transportation like bikes and scooters, but also things like autonomous vehicles that tend to focus on more fair weather deployments. But obviously, we want services that can serve the community 12 months out of the year. So if you've got ideas to take existing services that don't do too well in the wintertime and test out new models for that, we want to hear about it. And then finally, electrification of shared mobility. So we as a state want to continue to support the move towards non-greenhouse gas emitting transportation. So if there's an existing service that use gas powered or other greenhouse gas emitting engines, we're interested in projects that look to move that towards electrification. The application itself is pretty straightforward. We try to not make it too onerous for you. My guess is that it's a 5 or 10-minute process once you kind of have your idea ready to submit. You're going to want to first give us a narrative of your project, and we ask you some questions here. We want to know what's your idea? Where do you want to test this idea? So again, this is going to be tying into a greater Minnesota community. Who do you think will use it? Now this, as you heard from Tammy's experience, this may evolve over time, but we'd like to hear from your thought right now what you think the end user or customer for this will be. And what's the problem within the community you're trying to solve, the mobility problem, the need? We'll also want you to include a description of any work that you've done to date and any existing partners that you have on your project. This will be the place where you indicate whether you would like to apply for the stipend, the $4,000 stipend. And then you can attach additional information. You can include images, sketches, research, any other documentation that help explain your idea or show the work you've done. We do ask you to not include any proprietary or intellectual property in your application. These applications are subject to Minnesota Open Records requests, so you don't want to put any sensitive data in your application. Timeline for our phase 1 program. So we opened up on May 7th our enrollment. So applications are open. You can apply today. As I mentioned, ILT Academy will be hosting on May 22nd, Lean Startup Workshop. You can go to the Phase 1 application page. In the calendar section there is a link to a sign-up form for that. And once you do that, Nick will send out an invitation a day or two before, so you can join in on that. Again, that's a great opportunity. The other thing about that is, in addition to getting to know a little bit about the program more and how it will work, you'll essentially come out of that workshop with almost everything you need to fill out your application. Then our applications will be due on June 5th. We intend to make an announcement by July 2nd of the accepted projects in the cohort, and then the cohort will begin on July 17th. So that'll be the first class. Just some other things to keep in mind. We will be doing that should actually say fourth phase, not third phase. We will do a fourth phase 1 enrollment for the fall. So look for that in late summer. So if for some reason the summer schedule doesn't work for you, but you're still interested in this, we will have at least one more phase 1 cohort within our existing program right now. We will also be opening up phase 2 applications next winter. Similar timeline after the first of the year, and looking at a spring close for that. So give people plenty of time to pull their application together, and we'll be making awards next spring. So everyone who goes through this cohort and the next cohort, if they're interested in applying for our phase 2 funding, should have time to do that as well. So what's next? If you're interested in applying, again, highly recommend you sign up for the ILT workshop on May 22nd. If you have questions for me after this webinar, feel free to email me directly, and I'm happy to talk about that. If you want to share a little bit of your idea of what you're applying and whether you think it might be a good idea or not, I'm happy to give you a little feedback. And then we want you to apply. Take those 10 minutes or so, and it could be life-changing for your project. So we'd love to see you be a part of the process as well. So with that, we will, that wraps up the formal part of the webinar today. If you have questions, I didn't see anything come in through the chat, but you're welcome to put something in the chat. Or if you want to raise your hand and you can unmute and ask a question, we're happy to answer any questions. And while we're giving folks just a minute to think about anything, just check in with Nick or Tammy, see if there's anything I forgot to mention or anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up the webinar.
Yeah, I think, I liked what you were saying, Elliot, about teams. We love teams. It is critical because of how we teach, right? This is a flipped classroom model. So you're going to do the majority of the work in the class to practice the skill set. And then when you're outside the class, you need to go out in the community and talk to people, right, Tammy? I mean, that was a little scary at first, but I promise you, it makes all the difference in the world in your idea, because there's just things you don't know. And we're going to help you uncover and identify the gaps in your idea so that you can fill them, right? It's about problem identification, de-risking, ultimately. So when you submit this grant, they're like, I don't know how can we not pick this idea, Elliot? They really went deep into this, and they thought about things we weren't even thinking about. That's what this is going to help you do.
I would like to also add that when we had to develop a 30-minute elevator pitch,
30 seconds, sorry.
that was,
it's a slow elevator.
That was a game changer. And the nice thing about that is when we went out into the community talking, and asking questions and stuff, you could just tweak that elevator pitch just a little for the different types of individuals you were talking to. And that was really important because you don't talk to the commissioners the same way as what you talk to a person riding transit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different conversation. So we really learned how to do those kind of conversations too, which was a game changer.
Excellent. Well, I'm checking in. I'm not seeing any hands. So either we've done an amazing job of relaying our information or folks are just absorbing it all at this point. I do encourage you, if you have questions or you want to check in and see if your idea would be a good match for our program, do feel free to reach out to me. Do sign up for the workshop with ILT on the 22nd. And I look forward to seeing applications, hopefully from all of you, and seeing your bright faces in either this cohort or the next. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar today and look forward to seeing the projects that come in. Thanks, everyone.
Elliot. Nick's ahead of the team.